Hey, this is good old Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling. And I am here doing an Every Cloud Has a Platinum Lining. Now, you're not seeing my beautiful face, and the reason is because I'm going to be showing a number of slides and pictures and different things that have been sent to me. And this way I can throw it together a little faster and that kind of thing. All right, we're going to start. Actually, what you'll probably have right in front of you right now is a post from Larry Goodman, Georgia wrestling history, right here in the beginning. You see the picture there of, I believe that's Bryson Scott. Holy moly, right? So there's a number of serious things I'm going to tackle on this one. I'm going to tackle the story of Ryan Staples and his dad and all the crazy tweets going on there. But I'm also going to cover the Alabama Athletic Commission stuff. And we haven't got final word on that. Larry's pursuing that story as we speak, but I'm going to address that as well because that's the other very serious story going on now. And then I'm going to find a way to tie all that together. It's not that hard to do. It's easy if you try. But let's start with this post on Georgia wrestling history. I'll read it. You can read along with me if you like. Or you don't have to, of course. So Texas wrestler Bryson Scott sent out a tweet accusing TCW, this is an Austin, Texas promoter, Mr. B, John Peterson, of preying on underage girls. Impact star Jordan Grace, and we're going to see that, retweeted saying Mr. B trained her and she was subjected to his inappropriate behavior. The Georgia connection is Cornelia wrestler and former Total Aggression Pro Wrestling champion Ryan Staples, who is also Mr. B's son. Staples' initial response was a demand that Grace delete her message or he would expose her past behavior in Texas. Staples then retracted, indicated he had been enlightened, let justice be served. But it's not that cut and dry, is it ever? Yeah. So that's that initial story. Now we're going to look at the Alabama Commission stuff. And you're saying, Steve, why the fuck are we doing this? It will become evident. Plus, it's just a huge story in and of itself. All right, here's the Alabama Commission stuff. Bam. All right. Now, people have pointed out, lots of people have been sending me lots of stuff. That's how these things go, and that's great. That's why I'm throwing this thing together for you guys right now. Yeah, does Georgia have an athletic commission that pertains to pro wrestling? Absolutely. Do they do anything? No. And I'm constantly calling for there to never be a strong presence for the Georgia Wrestling Commission, which a lot of people in wrestling fight me on. And they're constantly saying I'm overstating the case and blah, 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 blah. We should have a powerful commission. It would make it better. It would make it so that, shitbird groups can't run and blah, 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 blah. This is the ultimate effect of a athletic commission with stroke. Are you ready, dummies? All right. Alabama Athletic Commission. There's an address and a phone number and a fax. Yay, fax. Event guidelines for licensees for boxing, MMA, kickboxing, bare knuckle, and wrestling. Do you already see the problem here? Right? And by the way, as a side note, those of you who absolutely insist on calling pro wrestling a sport. I'm not saying that you should be faulted. I'm just saying when you get lumped in with legitimate athletic competition and you have a powerful commission, or at least a commission that's inclined to do something, this is what you get. Effective June 15th, 2020. So what, in 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks' time? Please note, entertainment venues have additional guidelines. Oh boy, they must follow for all events. AAC does not override any requirements or guidelines issued by city or county officials. It is important to know all local guidelines and procedures along with coordinating requirements for social distancing in accordance with the entertainment venue. In addition to the CDC guidelines and precautions regarding COVID-19, you must adhere to the additional requirements outlined below. Number 1, the promoter is to follow all CDC guidelines pertaining to sporting and athletic events. Number 2, each participant, licensee, and staff of the promoter shall present, oh boy, a negative COVID-19 test administered within 3 days of the weigh-in or event upon arrival. So yeah, those of you doing weekly shows, everybody's got to have a COVID test within 3 days of that show every week. If the participant licensee arrives without a negative COVID-19 test result, the participant licensee or staff will not be allowed to enter the facility. The promoter shall require negative test results for each individual that will work for them at the event within 3 days of the event prior to being allowed into the facility. Number 4, if a participant licensee tests positive or provides a positive result upon arrival, the chief inspector or executive director shall suspend and not allow entrance into the facility. Number 5, the participant licensee will be suspended until a negative test result is presented to the AAC. All test results must be printed and a copy given to AAC staff on site prior to entering the facility. Any participant, staff of the promoter, vendors of the promoter, or any other individuals that are working or related to the event exhibiting COVID-19 symptoms or any flu-like symptoms during screening will not be allowed to enter the event center. Phew, right? So let me break it down for you. No indie promotion is going to be able to run. That's the long and short of that. And they're not going to be able to run for the foreseeable future. Period. Nobody is going to have 14 to 20 wrestlers that are all tested within 3 days of the event. And staff. And themselves. Think about that. A powerful commission during times of anything happening leads to only national groups being able to run. If you look at states around that have powerful commissions, they have more or less squeezed out indie promotions. The myth that what it does is it makes it so indie promotions, that only the best quality ones can run and blah, blah, blah. They make it impossible to run. That's how it's always gone. And in fact, some have almost gotten rid of pro wrestling in their state in its entirety. Look at Oregon, where the regulations were so tough and the money they took so significant. That's the other part of this, right? That the WWF back then was not going to run, and only then did they knuckle under. But they certainly didn't knuckle under because of any kind of pressure or acquiescence or anything else from indie promotions. In the past, groups like OSWA, who were putting 14 and 15-year-olds in a wrestling ring doing whatever ridiculous shit they were doing, one of my things was, doing this is going to lead to, if any of those people get hurt, it's going to lead to a more powerful Georgia commission, and they will start looking into things. And it's up to us to regulate and self-police. And of course, I had to catch all this backlash that continues to this day, right? Steve's against this and blah, 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 and we need to fight Steve and dipshits. If you have not figured out that I am the advocate for you, that I know the deal because I was there. I was part of the group that fought for a stronger commission and decried dipshits like Frank Aldridge, who by speaking up almost single-handedly made it happen with his incompetence. And other people who were there can testify to this as well. Bill Barons and others, right? The reason that we fight is not so we can get away with shady shit. The reason that we always fought it is because we know it inevitably leads to stuff like this. Let me ask you this, Georgia and Florida wrestling promoters, or any other, could you survive underneath the Alabama Athletic Commission decree? The answer is, of course, no. Yeah. I think we would all agree that we're for safety and all of that kind of stuff. But when you have regulations like that in place, it just makes it impossible. Better to just say you can't run. But that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is WWE can run. I mean, look at it's not hard to extrapolate that, is it? WWE, you can come in here and run. And pretty much nobody else. I mean, sure, I think it's safe to say AEW could afford it, but would they do it? As opposed to just running in Georgia where they've run before very successfully. It's like, fuck that, we'll just go to Georgia. That's what it's going to do. And then the WWE, who, by the way, aren't probably not going to run house shows anyway. Think about that. Which means what? It means at a time where indie promotions could perhaps take advantage of the fact that the WWE is not running house shows to provide live wrestling. Alabama is going to make it all but impossible. And you're saying, well, it's just a temporary thing and blah, 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 blah. But is it? Alabama, with all of this, how is it not easy to imagine a world where, okay, well, we're going to have representatives at these shows to check all of this stuff, including the right personnel that can look at these tests and ascertain whether they're accurate or not, or real enough, or the right kind of test, and blah, 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 blah. That's going to require staffing. And who's going to pay for that staffing? Folks, the venues. Folks, they're going to tax them. Folks, they're going to do all kinds of stuff. All right, let's get to this ridiculous story. I have the slides labeled, so if you hear me call out numbers, you're going to be like, what? It's for my purposes, so I can put it in. All right, slide number 1, going to this story now. Trisha Parker. Truly bizarre that you think you're in the right here. Grown men pursuing children is not okay, period. He was my trainer, unfortunately, and that was part of the reason I stopped training there, meaning the Texas facility in Austin. This is a response to Ryan Staples, former, I believe, Total Aggression champion and a guy who wrestled for OSWA, notably. He had threatened, replying to Jordan Grace of Impact, "Take this down now. You will not talk about your trainer and my father this way." The trainer part is like, what? "Or I will expose you for your old history that people in Texas are still talking about. So either you delete this post or you will..." Wow. Good stuff. Number 2. John, in response to Jordan Grace and dealing with that that tweet from our friend, John Mercer said, "I'm sorry you're dealing with the stupid idiot with 2 accounts that thinks spreading rumors, or at worst is going to show legitimate proof of adults who were taking advantage of underage females, is going to do anything other than give credibility to what you were saying." The best thing about the entire set of threats from this mental giant is that in the same account he is blasting you, he sends requests for tryouts with WWE and AEW while also talking about a tryout with Evolve. Like they're going to hire someone trashing you like that. So this is this Geesh account here we see in the third. This Geesh account is a burner account by... let's go back. I want to make sure I got his name right, so everybody's good. Yeah, Ryan Staples. So I won't forget that again. Ryan Staples. Geesh is his burner account, meaning a secondary account that he's doing to support himself. So yeah, Ryan Staples said at one point, you know what, let justice be done, but under this other burner account replying to Jordan Grace. And it's not hard to see that it's a burner account, right? There's no profile pic. And he's doing exactly what he threatened to do as Ryan Staples, which is reveal all this stuff. We see, I'm going to read Geish's thing here. Jesus. And he's sending it to Jordynne Grace and Impact Wrestling. So this is a clear attempt to damage Jordynne Grace as widely as possible. Ryan Staples is a scumbag. And again, for those that think, especially the Tap guys and OSWA, it's like, oh, Steve picks on us. Why does this kind of horse shit always come out of OSWA? Why were they having, 14, 15-year-old girls walking around the locker room, and that ended up causing problems where they got mixed up with wrestlers who were over the age, who were married and having kids, and all this fucked up shit that I've revealed in the past, right? Because they're not under control. And it has nothing to do with a commission or not a commission. It just has people not acting in common sense and people who aren't too bright. If you got anything else from Staples, he's not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree. And the fact that he thought he was pulling this stupid move should tell you everything you need to know. It's a culture there where it's just not people doing dumb fucking shit. The stuff that I hear, as much as you guys think that I report stuff, the stuff that I hear behind the scenes about what goes on at these fucking shitbird promotions, and the way they treat people and the decisions that they make, it's staggering and it's constant. But I usually only highlight the big stuff because I'm like, God, it's going to seem like I'm just fucking railing on these guys. All right, let's get to this. Let's get to this third slide. Yo, your girl talking about memories, but she was fucking 20, 30 plus dudes at 14 years old. She's a part of the problem too. And Nikki, no, the 20 to 30 plus dudes prepared to have sex with a 14-year-old are the problem, not the 14-year-old. Stop blaming the one underage and blame the adult instead. Pretty logical there. Go to slide 4. Ryopel. Yeah, these are terrible names. Let's look at Ryan Staples' part of this first. My dad made a mistake, and I'm not saying what he did is right at all, but trust me when I say my father has heard what I had to say on the matter because I too am a father with daughters. But I will not sit here and watch the pot call the kettle black. What? Ryopel, stay yourself too, big boy. If that shit is true, which looks pretty obvious, your dad is a pedo. Next slide. Here's the burner account of Ryan Staples again. It's crazy because you are Y-O-U-R, Jesus Christ, talking about memories, but when you were 14, 15, this is to Jordynne Grace, you were literally at the training place fantasizing about black men's pee-pees, especially Blair's spikes. And then to Jordynne Grace in Impact Wrestling, yo, your girl talking about memories, but she was fucking 20, 30 plus dudes at 14 years old. She's a part of the problem too. And then the next one to Jordynne Grace, not Impact Wrestling. So the one they sent to Impact Wrestling was the one that was designed to cause the most damage. A scumbag. And this one to Jordynne Grace again, I just hate hypocrites. You are literally a part of the problem. Sleeping with men to climb to the top, then have the nerve. Sleeping with men to climb to the top. Wow. All right, next one. What about the time you were 15 and fucking a 27-year-old? We have the proof too. Next slide, number 6. Wally. This guy is a piece of shit, and just for fun, says he's been in wrestling 11 years and has less than 70 followers. Absolute shower of shits. Yeah. Number 7. So this is in response to the one before where Nikki had said, stop blaming the underage and blame the adult instead. The burner account of Ryan Staples, Geish, says, okay, Nikki, she was actively pursuing older men, not because she was forced to, but because she wanted to. He's not making the distinction of she's 14 years old and 14-year-old make bad decision, even if everything he's saying is true, which it may or may not be. Number 8, Trisha Parker. He did the same thing to me 10 years ago when I was training. This definitely brings up some deeply seated memories. Same language and everything. Mr. B in the wrestling world. Let's take a look at this. Please send me everything. Well, since September 2017, and I'll send what I have, but a lot was over Snap. Fuck you. She's 16, same fucking age as your daughter. Fuck you. I was 13. I know I posted, I'm so sorry. Did anything physical ever happen? Did you send him any explicit photos? Let's go to number 9. Ryan Staples, in response to Jordan Grace. Take this down now. You will not talk about your trainer, my father this way, or I'll expose you in your old history that people in Texas are still talking about. So either you delete this post or you will get exposed. I promise you that. I have nothing to lose. Do you? Wow. I put that up again to sort of highlight how he used the burner account to do it and was following through on his threats. Tommy Justice, who put this best, he, meaning Staples and Guiche, the burner account, he's using tactics used by sexual predators to keep victims quiet. Jabroni's just dumb enough to do it on Twitter. Sorry you have to deal with this last. And then last, highlighting the Guiche thing, right? I hate hypocrites, you're part of the problem, blah, 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 blah. Imagine Q putting IB, I know this is your burner. Yeah. I instinctively knew what people meant when they said burner account, and I was wondering where that was from. And it was from, I mean, this might not be the exact etymology of that term, but I remember basically when drug dealers would use disposable phones, basically. So that way they couldn't be traced or listened in on and that kind of thing, because you would just use the burner phone and then you would throw it away. That's why you would have in sort of, especially in big cities where drug dealing was very prevalent, you would literally find cell phones scattered all over the place. And so people have, I mean, lots of people have used, lots of shitbirds have used sort of fake accounts to do their dirt. I don't need to say who I'm talking about, you know, whether to promote them or to defend them on boards and that kind of thing. In this case, it's particularly nefarious, right? So let me put up the thing about the Alabama Commission while I close here. This kind of behavior, pedophiles being involved, and keep in mind, if you're convicted of stuff, right, and you're going for your license, even in Georgia, which is a very hands-off kind of commission when it comes to pro wrestling, they do a background check. That's what you're paying your $100 for, but that's really all you're paying your $100 for. And you know, we've had different people with different theories on, you know, you have to get your license. I mean, you don't really. That's the truth, right? And even in Alabama, a whole bunch of people probably didn't know about those rules because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Whatever the rules are, yes, you should be following them. But what we don't want is this atmosphere at certain promotions that fosters this kind of stupidity that leads to something that we have here with the Alabama Athletic Commission. Again, take a hard look at that stuff, because it's during points of stress, which we're certainly all experiencing now, where these things get attenuated and heightened to the point where none of us are going to be able to run. That's the danger. And, you know, in a time in Georgia where different promotions are saying, you know, already saying, I'm not going to have as big a budget for the shows. And then the talent is like, well, no, we should be paid more if you're asking us to wrestle under dangerous conditions. Like all that stuff's like things are already on the fringing on the surface, right? Now you add this Alabama Athletic Commission kind of thing and you're done. And then you have idiots like Ryan Staples running around highlighting the problem, trying to attack Jordan Grace, using very obvious means to try to hurt her in retaliation for revealing sexual abuse. Do I blame him for having the instinct of defending his father? No, I don't blame him for having that instinct. Is he a moron? Clearly. And are there morons everywhere? Certainly. But does it seem like we've had a repeated problem of this variety at certain promotions in Georgia? Yeah. And have continued to have them for over 10 years. And allow me to do a little bit of a victory lap here. When I have in the past stated repeatedly that you gotta regulate. Do people make mistakes? Sure. But it's the ones that seem to make them repeatedly and have an atmosphere where lying is just their coin of the realm. That leads to things like, again, all this activity by Ryan Staples. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Of course it's a bad thing. And the thing is, people's first instinct is to blame the messenger, right? I can't wait to get the criticism of Georgia wrestling history. Well, if you guys didn't highlight it. So we're supposed to take this bad behavior and not say anything about it so it can foster? No. The onus is on the people doing the bad behavior and supporting the bad behavior and encouraging the bad behavior. Fuck Ryan Staples, right? And fuck you for Ryan Staples for, no, I've seen the light, let justice be done on one hand, but then using a burner account to go after Jordan Grace and others. What a scumbag. Right? This is a time to have your house in order. This is a time to openly disavow the people that you should be disavowing. When I put out the thing, right, about the wrestler who had dalliances with underage girls that he met through the locker room at OSWA, and after it had died down a little bit, found his way into different promotions. I put that out. And then people were like, oh, fucking Steve. A lot of people were complaining about it, but you know what all those groups did? They publicly got rid of him, as they should have. And we were all better for it, right? Southern Violence, I'm going to give them credit, was the first one, as soon as they saw it, to contact me and go like, you know what? We didn't realize it, or whatever their thing was, and they got rid of him. And they've gone on, right? And they're going to run this show on the 6th, right? They've gone on and gotten past it. But it's the groups that continue to dig in. And OSWA, when this story initially broke years and years ago, who had fought me and like, oh, Steve's exaggerating and, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but they stopped using 14 and 15-year-olds who were barely trained, if trained at all, in their shows doing physical stuff in the ring. You're welcome. Right? And later on, they took this hardline stance against me, but then they split, right? One of the two major people went and formed his own thing elsewhere, and then became And where do you think I get tons of my information from now? Right? So these guys who sort of stood in unison against me, it's Steve is this asshole, and he's just trying to fucking promote his favorites. I mean, I have to hear this shit all the time, right? Here's the truth. It's the shitbird groups. If anybody's going to get a strong Georgia Wrestling Commission doing shit like this Alabama Athletic Commission, keep looking at that fucking thing, by the way. It's going to be shitbird groups that do the dumbest shit that get us fucked, or foster this environment where the Ryan Staples of the world are running around fucking going after, sending shit to Impact Wrestling. Again, Impact Wrestling just did a big thing in Georgia. If Georgia gets the reputation as the place that you don't want to run either, because look at this Alabama Athletic Commission. You think fucking MLW, Ring of Honor, AEW are going to knock down the doors to run in Alabama? Hell no. And if they're not going to do it in Alabama, where are they going to do it? Georgia. But then you've got dipshits in Georgia sending stuff to Impact Wrestling saying, oh, Jordan Grace fucked all these guys when she was 14, 15. Like, somebody tackle that guy and fucking stop him from fucking tweeting. This is a time where we've got to be smart. This is a time where we have to create a culture in Georgia wrestling, Florida wrestling too, but Georgia wrestling in particular, where we've got to do the smart fucking thing and make the smart fucking moves. And why I decry these promoters who are constantly fucking spewing off about politics and all this other dumb shit is, at the end of the day, do you want things to get traced back to you just going like, oh, we got to regulate these guys who say that, go against common sense or whatever the fuck. Be smart. Be kind. Be compassionate. Make proper decisions. And fucking clean up your own houses before somebody else comes in and cleans your houses for you with a goddamn fire hose, destroying everything. This has been Every Cloud Has a Platinum Lining. Have a wonderful weekend.